Story 1. My name's Jimmy. You might have heard this story on the news, but here it goes. I'm a 9th grade computer nerd. I initially enjoyed coding apps for my friends, building superpowered computers, and surfing the dark web, but these things quickly became boring, so I started hacking. It all started during the first month of my freshman year. My English teacher, Mr. King, was a new teacher in our district. He said he moved here by way of Kansas. Talk about random. He quickly became one of the most beloved teachers in the school. The guys looked up to him, and the girls adored him. Being a rebel without a cause, I loathed him. He seemed phony. It was as if he was acting out a role in some sort of movie. There was no authenticity to his words. His dark gray eyes seemed too cold to match his upbeat demeanor. The first bit of groundwork that I did was pretty juvenile. After he left school one day, I snuck into his classroom and simply downloaded all the files on his work computer. Nothing was too out of the ordinary, but he seemed to have done some in-depth research into my classmate Penelope. He looked up her address and family information in the school district's database. Penelope came from a broken home. She had a single mom who was not doing too well. Penelope's mom was an unemployed drug addict, so Penelope was basically raising herself. Creeped out, but not too alarmed, I decided I'd give it a few days. If he did anything weird, I would do a more thorough investigation. A few days later, I saw that Penelope had a new necklace. It had a few diamonds, and was clearly not something her mother would have been able to afford. I also saw Penelope working with Mr. King during extra help. He kept staring at the necklace. That was enough for me. I found his home address doing a simple Google search. Without boring you with hacker jargon, I accessed his home computer via his unsecured wireless network. This guy was a rookie. At first, I didn't see anything too incriminating, just a bunch of selfies and electronic books. I thought it was pretty weird that he didn't have any photos of his family or friends. It was as if this guy knew nobody. Just as I was about to give up and deem this guy an extreme introvert, I noticed there was another device using his unsecured network. It was a first-generation iPad. It wasn't synced with any other machine. When I opened his photos, my stomach sank. There were various screenshots of news articles reporting abductions throughout the country. The articles all said that young girls were last seen with their English teacher. Each article included a picture of this teacher. At first glance, they all appeared to be different suspects. In one, the teacher had long flowing hair. In another, he had a long beard. After zooming in, I nearly had a heart attack. The suspect's eyes were dark gray and oddly cold. It was clearly Mr. King. Needless to say, I made a phony email account and forwarded all this information to the school district and the police. Mr. King was quickly arrested and Penelope was perfectly fine. Stay safe in school this fall. You never know if your favorite teacher is not who he says he is. Story 2. I've been teaching 5th graders for over 20 years. Sure, you'll get some kids that are simply bad apples, the ones that don't understand the word no, the ones that get too rough on the playground, the ones that simply won't open a book for the sheer purpose of being rebellious. But most of my students are good, normal kids. I also have to mention that I take care of my elderly father. He is quite cranky, but he's my dad, so it's my duty. He's lived with me since my mother, Mia, passed away 5 years ago. I've never been truly afraid of a child until I met Andrew in the fall of 2002. I was feeling a bit ill through these few strange weeks. I was dizzy and weak, so this might have skewed my judgment at the time. At first glance, Andrew appeared to be an ordinary 5th grader. He wore braces, he enjoyed recess, and he hated homework. It quickly became clear he was anything but normal. One day, he fell asleep during class. It was right before recess. The bell rang and he was snoozing in the 3rd row. I went over to his desk and gave him a nudge. He quickly woke up with his eyes wide open. "Andrew, you're missing recess, pal," I said with a laugh. "Okay, Mr. Harris. I had a weird dream about you. You have a lot of family that thinks about you," he replied. Okay, sport, thank you," I muttered. I thought nothing of it. When you've been teaching as long as I have, you realize that kids have the craziest imaginations. The next few weeks continued to get weirder and weirder. One day after class, Andrew came up to my desk. He said that a woman by the name of Mia was trying to talk to me. Thinking he just saw my mother's name on social media somehow, or did a simple Google search of my family, I brushed it off. It all got out of control one fateful Wednesday night. I had gone jogging around the neighborhood and was approaching my lawn. Shocked and worried, I saw Andrew on the front stoop. "Andrew, what's going on? Where are your parents?" I yelled. "They're at work, Mr. Harris. I had to come here as soon as I heard." "Heard what?" I asked. "Mia said it was your father that did it. He slipped cyanide into the food that night. It wasn't the cancer that killed her. He's doing the same thing to you now," Andrew replied. Dumbfounded and completely freaked out, I called Andrew's parents to pick him up. They apologized for the visit, but I did not tell them what Andrew had told me. Later that night, I went through my father's belongings. I found cyanide hiding underneath old newspapers. I went to the doctor the next day to be sure. He found traces of it in my blood. I reported my father to the police. After a thorough investigation and a deep dive into Mom's medical records, it seemed that Andrew's revelations were true. He did poison her. Andrew was not my student for much longer, as he and his parents moved away a few weeks later. Before he moved, I thanked him for his help, but he didn't even remember what I was talking about. He was utterly perplexed. Never doubt the power of young minds. They might open doors that adults simply cannot access. Story 3. It was my second year teaching, and I was excited to take my third graders on their first field trip of the year. We were going to a museum a few towns away from the school. It was the entire grade, so each teacher was responsible for a group of children. We got to the museum and were waiting in the lobby to begin our scheduled tour. As soon as we entered, a tall custodial worker approached us. He was wearing a brown outfit, and Bill was embroidered on the left side. He smelled quite unpleasant and desperately needed to shave. "Hey there, welcome to the museum," Bill said with a large grin. I was a bit nervous around this man. I know it sounds overly judgmental, but he simply gave me the creeps. Without replying, I quickly moved our group to the other side of the lobby. The day proceeded as normal. The kids were enjoying the tour, and the creepy custodial worker was nowhere to be found. The tour guide was a very knowledgeable and handsome man. He knew everything about U.S. history. He was so good with kids that I thought he surely must have been a former teacher. During our lunch break, a student named Mark needed to use the bathroom. I walked him to the men's room and waited outside. Suddenly, I heard a loud crash. I burst into the men's room and saw a garbage can knocked over and a window opened in the corner. Mark was outside. He was walking towards the parking lot and holding hands with a large man. I tried to climb out the window but couldn't fit. I rushed around the lobby and sprinted towards the parking lot. I saw Bill standing next to Mark. He was holding a large wrench. The other man laid knocked out cold on the pavement. The man on the pavement was our handsome and friendly tour guide. His name was Ronald Torrance. He was charged with kidnapping over 40 children, and the police had been searching for him for months. Despite looking creepy and unkempt, Bill saved Mark's life that day. He ended up winning the Man of the Year award in our small town. Never judge a person by the way they look or dress. It's not only morally wrong, it might just destroy your life. Hey guys, Scare Central here. I just want to thank you for viewing this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when new stories are posted. It's crazy that we already have over 400 subscribers in just a few short weeks. I look forward to watching this channel continue to grow. My goal is to make Scare Central the future of all things horror. I can only do this with your help. Please, share this video with anyone you think might enjoy it. You can both help our channel grow and also make that person's day a bit better. Thank you, and as always, stay scared.